What is going on, guys? Welcome back to not a BFR, but a new series that I've said I'd put in. I said in the BFR today that I'm starting a new series, and it's about playoffs. I did the season since that I've been alive, and I briefly covered any playoffs that were in there. But now we go in depth as we go to the playoff series since I have been alive. And lucky for me, 2006 through 2008, they don't make the playoffs, so I get to skip right ahead to the 2009 time, right around the time where I can remember watching hockey. As this 2008-2009, I was, let me think about this, 2005, 2006, 2007. I was 4 years old at the time of watching this, so I can remember a few things. I remember this is why be careful where you're putting your recording device. I have this a lot closer than usual so you can actually read a little bit of this because A, I have horrible handwriting, B, I had to write very small because I didn't leave myself enough space, and C, I don't really have a C. Just make sure when you're recording you don't do what I just did and hit the upper side of your camera and make it go upward. It's the last thing you want to do. So apologize if I startled anyone with that. Yeah, this is 2009, round one. Chicago, who was the 4th seed this year, had 104 points against Calgary, who is the 5th seed, had 98 points. Same amount of wins during the season. However, Hawks had 6 more overtime shootout losses. And yeah, this was an interesting series. As the Hawks, this is when the people said the Hawks rebuild was done. They got Taze, they got Kane. They still don't have Hossa yet, but he's coming next year. And they had Sharp, Keith, Seabrook, Brian Campbell, Dustin Byfuglien, Andrew Ladd, Versteeg, all these guys. And let's get right into it. As game one, they win 3-2 in overtime. And how did they get there? They actually give up the first goal, and it's David Moss, his first of the playoffs, obviously. And he would be someone that I remember having his hockey card, but I don't really remember much after that. I remember him in the early NHL games that I had, NHL 10, NHL 11, those kind of games. And then Cam Barker, bust if I've ever seen one, makes it 1-1. He did have a decent playoff, though. And then Michael Camilleri, one of my favorite players growing up, makes it 2-1 in the second period. Actually, no, the third period, because I put lines. Moss scores in the first, Barker scores in the second to tie it. And we go to the third. Camilleri makes it 2-1, first of the playoffs. Then Havlat, another one of those players that if there was no salary cap, the Hawks would have had the best top 6 in the league without question, which is a what if we can do in the future when I start the what if series, probably around next summer, as I'll have a lot of time next summer. And I hope to get this done during the entire winter break, as I counted maybe 25 playoff series that I have to go through. Trying to remember now. Maybe not. I don't remember. But, yeah, let's keep going. And then we go to overtime as Havlat ties it late. Havlat gets the game winner 12 seconds into overtime and wins it 3-2. Second of the playoffs. Hawks take game one. And game two, they also win 3-2, this time not in overtime. And it's a comeback win. Jerome McGinley scores to make it his first of the playoffs on the power play. And then followed up by the former Blackhawk, Adrian Aucoin, who, if you've watched the early part of the season since I've been alive series, you would have seen his name as the captain of the team. It makes it 2-0, his first of the playoffs. And we go to the second period, where Taze gets his first goal. And it's on the power play, so it makes it 2-1. And then Patrick Sharp makes it 2-2. And then Jonathan Taze, again, makes it 3-2. And there are no goals scored in the third as the Hawks win 3-2 and take a 2-0 series lead. And this is where the series shifts to Calgary. And they lose game 3, 4-2. Patrick Sharp gets them up early. It makes it 1-0 on the second of the playoffs on the power play. And then Eric Nystrom. I remember a lot of these players from the season after, which is... There will be another series probably about the most memorable regular season games. As playoffs, we're going to go through every game. So, that was a game against Calgary in 2009-10 season. That was a very memorable game in there. That if I ever do a series on that, I'll definitely put that one in along with another game against Calgary, I remember, and then a game against Pittsburgh for sure. I'll have to think about games that I remember from that. So yeah, Eric Nystrom makes it 1-1, his first of the playoffs. And then another former Hawk in the second period makes it 2-1 Calgary, as it's Rene Bourque makes it 2-1. And then we go to the third. David Moss gets his second of the playoffs, and then makes it 3-1. And then David Moss again gets his third of the playoffs, and his second of the game makes it 4-1. And then late in that third period, Martin Havlat makes it 4-2. Third of the playoffs already. Him and Moss tie for goals in the lead. And Calgary takes Game 3, and the Hawks lead 2-1. It's starting to get dark in here. Might need to turn on the light, see how that looks. Yeah, that works. Game 4. Hawks lose 6-4. Lots of goals. Almost ran out of space. This is what I mean where it's so small the writing here. Only I can make it out. So Patrick Kane gets his first of the playoffs. First playoff goal, as long as Taves gets his first playoff goal down here. Makes it 1-0. And then Jerome McGinley answers on the power play, his second of the playoffs, to make it 1-1. And then Olli Jokinen, one of those guys that went everywhere. He was in Winnipeg, he was in Atlanta, I feel like, he was in Calgary, he was in Florida, he was in a lot of places that I can remember. So yeah, Olli Jokinen makes it 2-1 in the second period, so his first of the playoffs. And then Adrian Aucoin again and makes it 3-1. I completely forgot that guy existed. And then when I was researching for this video, gets his second of the playoffs. Then Olli Jokinen makes it 4-1, and he gets his second of the playoffs. And then so they score 3 goals in the second period to make it 4-1. And then the Hawks steam back as Chris Versteeg makes it 4-2, his first of the playoffs. And this was Versteeg's. Versteeg was a Calder finalist this year. Versteeg had a phenomenal season with the Hawks. They got him in a trade from Boston. Never played in hardly any games with Boston, I think. And came to Chicago. Absolute steal for Chicago. That's one of the greatest trades in Chicago history. Just one of those pieces that would be an important piece of the 2010. And he was also a part of the 2015 Cup run. And so he makes it 4-2. And then Cam Barker makes it 4-3. I said he was a bust, but he had a pretty good series. And then Sammy Paulson, who they had for about half a season, won a Stanley Cup with Anaheim, gets on the board and makes it 4-4. And then we go to the third period where Eric Nystrom scores his second of the playoffs to make it 5-4. And then Jerome McGinley, with an empty netter, gets his third of the playoffs, makes it 6-4. And the series is tied 2-2 as we head back to Chicago for Game 5, in which the Hawks win 5-1. And Brent Seabrook scores first, makes it 1-0, and his first of the playoffs. And then Patrick Sharp makes it 2-0, his third of the playoffs. Then Chris Versteeg scores and makes it 3-0 to make his second of the playoffs. And that was 3 goals in 1 minute and 49 seconds. So great start to the game. And then let's go to the second period. Someone who I've never heard of, I'm going to be completely honest. Dustin Boyd makes it 3-1, his first of the playoffs. And then Andrew Ladd makes it 4-1, his first of the playoffs. Cam Barker gets his third of the playoffs as he makes it 5-1, and there are no goals in the third period. So Hawks win 5-1. McElhinney goes in. Kiprusoff was the starter for Calgary all 6 games. Curtis McElhinney was playing back then, and he was the backup for Calgary, so he actually went in during this game. I mentioned it down in my notes below. And we go to Game 6. Hawks have a chance to win their first series since 1996 at this time. And they win 4-1. They take the series 4-2. As Patrick Kane gets on the board early on the power play, makes it 1-0. And then Adam Burish, like one of the few goals I've ever seen him score, makes it 2-0 in his first of the playoffs. Burish scored more goals this playoffs than I remember him scoring his entire career with Chicago. So that's funny. And then Brian Campbell, who at this point in the league was the most paid defenseman, and he was being paid by Chicago. So he was getting paid, I want to say, like $6 million, $7 million. That was a lot for that time for a defenseman, especially in the salary cap era, new salary cap era. Brian Campbell makes a 3-0. Gets his first of the playoffs on the power play. So used to saying first of the year with the BFR series. And then Todd Bertuzzi, who I never knew played in Calgary, makes it 3-1. I remember Bertuzzi in Detroit, Vancouver, where the Moore incident. That's a sensitive topic for many. He was in Detroit. He was a power forward, I remember. Did pretty well in Vancouver before the Moore incident. Was pretty decent in Detroit. He was also, and I'm pretty sure he was in Florida in between times. And that was like one of those guys that Mike Keenan liked, so he followed him around. Mike Keenan was the coach of the Flames at this time, former coach of the Hawks when they went on to the final in '92. And Keenan, this would be his last season he'd coach in the NHL, as there would be guys that would follow him around, like Brian Noonan would be one, Stefan Matteau would be one. There was Bertuzzi here, he would follow him. A bunch of guys would just follow him around. It'd be kind of strange how he picked his players. He was more of a tough guy, more than he didn't really adapt to the new skill game. He just wanted old '80s Oilers, early '90s Blackhawks and Rangers. That's pretty much, and then also some Flyers and Flames from that era if they could. But by this time, there's hardly any left. Let's be honest. And sorry about that. I kind of got away from myself. Dustin Byfuglien. It's his second of the playoffs. And is that his second? No, it's his first of the playoffs. I'm not sure why I wrote number 2 there. He gets his first of the playoffs. It's an empty netter, 4-1, as the Hawks take the series 4-2. And the first series I ever saw them win, and they're 1-1 at this point. And I have some stats below, which you can't really see. I mean, you can see a bit of them, but I'm trying to get the camera angle, so maybe like that. Yeah, that could work. You'll see a little bit of it down here. I got the guys with the most points and the goalie percentages on this. So the only note I had down here was that Kane missed 1 game. He had 4 points during the series. So he played 5, everyone else played 6. As the Hawks' leading scorer was Chris Versteeg, who was making a strong case for the Calder at this year. He was a Calder finalist. He didn't win. I'm trying to remember who did, and I can't remember. I don't think it was Stamkos. I don't think it was Stamkos, but I don't remember. So let's see if I can remember at some point. So he had 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points, leading the team. Then Cam Barker, 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. Havlat, 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. Sharp, 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. Then Taze gets 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points. And then Seabrooks has 1 goal, 5 assists for 6 points. Keith had no points during the series, which was surprising. And Javi Bulin, who was 36 at the time, so he was nearing the end of his career. He'd go on to play with the Oilers after the season for a few years. But Javi Bulin, this was his last kind of hurrah for the playoffs, and he did pretty well. As he goes 4-2 with a .914 save percentage as the Bulin Wall went on his last playoff run. And Calgary, Jokinen had 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. He led the team, as Iginla had 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points, and Nystrom had 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. Kiprusoff went 2 for 4, .884 save percentage, and McElhenney, for the short time he went in, doesn't get a game on his record. He went in at the end of Game 5 for garbage time as 900 save percentage. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. This was basically a test to see if it would work well, and I think it worked pretty well. I like looking back at the past. I like looking at the glory days of the Hawks for sure. Without question, one of my favorite things to do is just look at old playoffs. We'll go on Wikipedia or Hockey Reference and just look at old playoff series, old players, old stats. That's just kind of something I enjoy doing. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll see you guys next time, I think. Leave your thoughts down below. If you guys remember anything, if you were young enough when this happened. I was 4 years old, for example, so don't really remember a whole ton. I remember Game 1 for sure, and then after that, my mind kind of gets fuzzy when it comes to those. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.